Okay. So Representative Alma Hernandez, who may or may not be able to join us briefly, and we will try to give you information on how to get your questions to her. But anyway, she is currently serves as the representative for Arizona Legislative District Number 20. She was born and raised on the South Side, and she holds a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Public Health from UA, and earned both a Master's in Legal Studies and a Juris Doctor from the Sandra Day O'Connor School College of Law. Alma is the youngest woman ever elected to the Arizona State Legislature. So she is currently the representative for Arizona LD20, but she is running for the state Senate. And the other presenter that we have is Rocque Perez, who is also running for the state Senate seat for Arizona Legislative District 20. He's a 26-year-old fourth-generation Tucsonan, public education advocate, and former city council member. He studied at the U of A and went on to work there. And in 2025, he was unanimously appointed to the Tucson City Council, becoming the youngest official in city or county government in Arizona. And he's running for the state Senate seat for Legislative District 20. That's the state legislature. You can read his full bio at rocqueperez.com, and I'm going to drop a link to his website in the chat. And let's see, if Rocque is here, please go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about yourself. Oh, but Tina is going to go
Yeah,
first.
yeah. Sorry. Hi, Rocky. But before that, I just want to. My name is Tina Whitley, and I'll be facilitating the questions and things like that. But before we have speakers who come to ITAA meetings, and I just want to preface this with that we provide pride ourselves in providing a forum for speakers to engage in a courteous exchange of ideas. And you were sent questions about education, data centers, and constitutional rights ahead of time. And so the purpose of this meeting is to hear your viewpoints about those topics. And yeah, and we have Shelley who will be looking at the chat. So if people have a question while Rocque is speaking, you can put ask or question and your question in the chat, and we'll monitor it that way. And Rocque, sometimes speakers also look at the chat, so you're welcome to just respond to if you see that. But we do look forward to hearing your viewpoints. And I'm going to start it with the last question was what are your two priorities that you would have if the Democrats won a majority of the state Senate seats in the 2026 election?
Awesome. Just to clarify, do I just go ahead and answer all of that? Just all in one? Okay, sounds good.
Oh yeah, you can just give us our two priorities, but I'm assuming that those questions we sent you are in
Yeah.
there too. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. It's so awesome to meet you. I'm seeing a couple of familiar faces here. For those that I haven't had the opportunity to connect with, again, my name is Rocque Perez. Like folks had mentioned before, born and raised Tucsonan, and, I'm a product of our public school system, and I think that makes me all the more interested in public education. I currently serve as the CEO and president for the city and the county's Joint Education Council, which is a public body and a nonprofit organization. Um, we have programs where we're embedded in every single public high school within Pima County. And in that role, I love my job because I get to support, fellow young people that are figuring out their place in the world, and especially in this very tumultuous moment. Um, I'm jumping into this race, and I'll be courteous, but to be frank, I felt an imperative during my time on city council. I came in uh, making a promise to our fellow city council members that knowing that we had a significant surplus in the Ward 5 City Council budget, that I would give long overdue investments into our community. And so throughout that process and throughout my short tenure, although short, it was very crazy. I got to invest quite a lot of money into nonprofits, neighborhood projects, into small businesses. The list goes on, and all because I felt that, and I think what's widely known as a significant level of disinvestment, historical disinvestment within the Tucson's South Side. Throughout my time on city council, we got to I deliberate on quite a number of very controversial things, including data centers. I think that consideration of the proposed data center project will probably be the high mark of my time on city council. Like many folks, I learned about Project Blue through nonprofit public media coverage more than I did through the city of Tucson as a council member. And I think, coming in as a first-time candidate, one that was not elected, and figuring out the landscape of data centers while everybody else was doing the same thing, was a very informative moment for me. And I think just makes me all the more prepared to advocate for Tucson's interests when it comes to the state legislature. For those that aren't aware, the state of Arizona, we give pretty significant, almost unparalleled incentives to developers when it comes to data centers. And these were incentives that were developed well over a decade ago. And surprisingly, were largely championed by a bipartisan movement amongst Republicans and Democrats. And right now, I know that there is a increased level of energy around this topic, and I know that I would be a very unique perspective in that discussion. Beyond that, and beyond my time on city council, I feel an imperative to run and jump in this race because, while I was a city council member, I felt that, recognizing that, legislative district 20 overlaps pretty significantly Ward 5, but encompasses a pretty significant portion of Tucson, as someone who's lived all over Tucson and primarily within LD20. I recognize that, our biggest public school districts, in the last year or so were vying for increased investments in school infrastructure and teacher compensation and peer funding. The list goes on. That, our county was looking for investments in our roads and infrastructure and transit. And then I think just overall, more broadly, Tucsonans feel a significant level of disconnect in how our state is investing in our communities. And we see that education being one example. Pima County, when it comes to a number of touch points, in terms of third grade reading proficiency, I think we're at 24%, down 2 percentage points over the last year, indicative of lacking investment in K through 12 education funding. Our schools are, dilapidated. They're overdue with, much needed infrastructure updates. And then I think just for me, directly working within my role, I engage with counselors, college and career advisors. I know that students are undersupported and their educators and counselors are even more undersupported. And so I know that we are overdue for investments in that space as well. But all that being said, comparatively, I was not someone that envisioned myself jumping into local government, much less state government. But I do so because I feel that we're lacking good representation. As someone who has a mom who was undocumented for most of my life, as someone who has lost a sibling to the opioid crisis, as a member of the LGBTQ plus community, I've had to endure political violence in a number of different ways. And unfortunately, I've seen my opponent vote in the spirit of those interests. Unfortunately, she is the Democrat that has voted the most with Republicans over any other individual in the legislature, 151 times as of this very cycle, including and a lack of votes in everything from immigration enforcement, protections of LGBTQ plus members, and so on. And so I'm
Okay.
jumping in here. Very interested to serve and represent Tucson as the only candidate not accepting corporate money.
Right. So you're not accepting corporate money, and it sounds like you value working with others. And one of the questions also is how will you would you approach that in this legislature in terms of talking to people and getting support for your ideas, and how would, and also my thinking too, and your outreach to the community, how that works for you.
Yeah. Well, not even just a matter of how we conduct ourselves in the chamber, but how, we are members of the community. Uh, I look at the roles of elected officials as partners, just fundamentally, as people that are not only, voting in a chamber, but building capacity and, empowering folks to elevate those interests, not only, within the legislature, but out in Tucson. I think that for me, in my role, I work with teens and trying to identify their strengths and matching them up with, pathways that seem the most viable, right? And I think comparatively, our lawmakers right now, in unfortunate circumstances with a Republican majority, in the event that we are able to get a majority, it's going to take, fellow Democrats working together. And, I've had a short, but I think fruitful record over the last couple of years of collaborating with local officials in the spirit of Tucson's interests. And I do it as someone who has been the recipient of state funding through, numerous social services, and also I think the victim of a lacking disinvestment of those areas as well. And so I think that, um, you know, I think if I was elected, we have, officials who have historically, just engaged with a small circle, but I think as a young person, I feel equipped to look at both digital means as well as in-person organizing to really assimilate a lot of perspectives. And I think that's the way that I've conducted myself thus far.
So Shelley, do you have some questions from the chat that we can direct to Rocky?
I do. I'll start with the most recent one. Will you oppose vouchers that take money away from public schools?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the conversation around vouchers has been really nuanced over the last year. I think that the voucher ESA program was something that, we all kind of knew of, and I think that the narrative from the Democratic Party has shifted. I think that, with the opposition of it, and then even the fake petition to counter it, um, have all been, I think, detrimental to, how we are trying to instill the need for accountability to folks, and that this is not a matter of doing away with, necessary means of options, but really accounting for the overspending and the lacking accountability and transparency within that program. And so yes, absolutely, would oppose any means of, expanding that program, and furthering, its standing.
Great. Judy asked, so Judy said she tried to RSVP for the event to meet LD20 and 17 candidates. The reservations for LD20 are now closed. I'm not 100% sure what event that is. Maybe you can speak to that?
Yeah, so the Arizona Luminaria and Tucson Spotlight, this is, I'm gonna believe,
Okay.
their second year in a row where they're doing some kind of forum. The invitations I actually checked this morning as well because I was hoping to send this to some people, and it does look like it might have been full. I do have the intentions of asking them to see if we might be able to relocate or shift because I haven't even had the opportunity to promote it. But I'll be sure to send that along to Judy, to maybe share with you all if I have news.
That'd be great. Melody asks, how can we protect mail-in voting?
Yeah, I think our voting systems, and I think overall that when it comes to campaign and election law and even campaign finance law, Arizona is very behind. I know that we have the privilege of some protections on mail-in voting, and I know that in large part, we're building a movement to protect the need for mail-in voting at the federal level, but here in Arizona, I know that it's a Project 2025 imperative to really undo that. And so I think for me, I think taking cues from the Secretary of State this year alone, there is another ballot initiative that is circulating when it comes to voter protection in a number of ways. And I think right now, that is our best bet. I think the majority of Arizonans, not even just Tucsonans, but Arizonans, Democrat or Republicans, vote by mail and would like to see those votes protected. I know that there's a lot of other nuances when it comes to, Republicans trying to inhibit our people of color from voting through fear tactics with ICE, as we've seen through this legislative session. And I might argue that those are part of, I think, just a continuum of protecting voter access.
Appreciate that. Anybody else, please put questions in the chat.
And I have a question, Rocky. Is there a piece of legislation, like if you're elected, that you really want to put forward or more than one piece of legislation that you really want to bring to the Arizona State Legislature, should
You
you be?
know, with the assumption we're able to take back a majority, to be frank, I feel that I would be best positioned to try to undo a lot of the co-sponsored bills that I've seen my opponent bring forth. I think those aside, I think that we've really got to start from the get-go in addressing our campaign finance laws. Corporate money has a immense control on our legislature, regardless of party. And I think that at a systemic level, that's really why we're seeing, I think, a lacking energy when it comes to solutions on everything from healthcare to education to our role within social services. The list goes on. And so I think that for me, and especially uniquely within my race, knowing that that was a moment in this particular contentious race that campaign finance was a topic, and I think that that's something that I would like to really focus on as someone who's had to navigate that process. But I think kind of going back to the former, everything from bills that have sought to inhibit free speech protests on college campuses, to actions that have tried to hold teachers accountable to certain faith ideologies. The list goes on there, and I think that those are things that have been very detrimental to free speech here in the state of Arizona, and I think that I'd like to see them repealed.
Mhm.
Okay, there's some chunky questions in chat. Let's see. So climate crisis in general and in Arizona in particular, can you share your thoughts, please, about conservation, development, natural resource extraction, etc.?
Yeah, so I think that the data centers aside, because I think we can
Okay.
spend all this time talking about data centers. I think that's the hot topic when it comes to this particular point. Um, I think that right now we see, and this goes back to a lot of corporate interests, our decision makers are beholden to corporations, and those very same corporations, and what I hear the word establishment thrown around a lot. I don't look at establishment as political camps. I actually look at it as chambers of commerce. I've looked at it as big business. I look at it as the folks that are really, holding our elected leaders to, certain voting trends. And I think that those same, interests are also folks that are, coming before the Arizona legislature asking for, development incentives, development relief, and other state funding and contracts that I think have been very detrimental to our environment. And I'll also add, these are not only, developmental interests that are here in the state of Arizona, they're also foreign interests. I think that Saudi Arabia and the conversation around, water and other resources has been something that has come before the legislature a number of times. And unfortunately, I've seen my opponent siding with those interests. Beyond that, I think we do need to incentivize more generally good energy practices. Right now, our utility companies they make a pretty significant um, contribution to climate impacts here within the state of Arizona, again, beyond, the data center developments. And so, I think really trying to, overstep the Arizona Corporation Commission in instilling, environmental protections when it comes to utility companies would also be something of interest there.
Okay, we have time for one more question, and I just want to preface that Representative Hernandez is not here, so she cannot speak to the reasons she has supported certain bills or not. So what we will listen to, Rocque, is what you support and why you support them. So Shelley, I think there's one more question in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually there are two, but they're related. So I'll sort of summarize, and then I encourage people to read the chat as well. Could you please share your thoughts on the religious bills that have been supported? This member is increasingly worried about the lack of separation between church and state that the Republicans and perhaps your opponent have been supporting. There's quite a list of bills and
Yeah.
statements about them, and we'd welcome your thoughts on those.
Yeah, so I kind of touched on this previously of, I think if I was elected, what would be some of the main, things that I would want to undertake, and these are them. All of the bills that were listed here. Some of them have, didn't make it, past the governor for signature here, but I think that, the trend here is that, for me, I think that as a representative and especially a representative for LD20, mind you, the bluest district within Southern Arizona and encompassing, major public school districts, encompassing major developments that are, pertinent to, our political moment here, that voting against those interests that we have seen here at the local level is something that was of great concern to me. And I think that an inability to differentiate one's own religion from the number of them that I might represent is something that I'm conscious of and would really seek to, ensure that, we are operating as a legislature, not regardless of race, ethnicity, and religion, but inclusive of all races, ethnicities, and religions. And I think that that would include, not moving forward with bills like this. I think just speaking to another thing, it's not unknown when it comes to a lot of this being in alignment with Israel, Jewish faith aside, and I do believe that, our fellow Jewish community, deserves equal protections as much as anyone else. But when it comes to, Israel interests, a lot of those have been advanced by way of, our current representative here. And so when it comes to the conversation around Israel and Gaza, I feel that I have a totally moral and political contrast from my opponent, and I think that would reflect again back to those bills.
Okay, Rocky, thank you so much. It's
Yeah.
been really, really helpful to listen to your viewpoints and where you stand. And for those questions that we have in the chat for Representative Hernandez, I have a question for the state team. If we can, we always get a copy of the chat, and if we can put our heads together about how to get those questions to Representative Hernandez, is that if that's okay with everybody, because she wasn't able to be here, but these are things that constituents would like to know. So if that's okay, um, we'll move on. And Rocky, you're welcome to stay. We have speakers about Medicare for all, and just thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And, I just want to add in the chat, I'm dropping in my email as well as my website. And through there, you can find every other means of contacting me. For those that have the extra time and ability, we always welcome contributions, but even more so volunteer hours. And so thank you all for the opportunity. Again, I really appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much, Rocky.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate hearing from you, and thanks for joining us. It's just a really wonderful benefit for our members, and we appreciate it so much. So thanks again so much for joining us. So next, we're going to hear from Ken Kenegos, who is representing the Arizona Medicare for All Coalition. And Ken is a retired RN who's been part of the movement for not-for-profit single-payer healthcare system in the U.S. for the last 18 years. He's the current coordinator of the Arizona Medicare for All Coalition, which is a project of Progressive Democrats of America, Arizona. He is also an active member of the Arizona Democratic Party Progressive Council, and he and his wife Martha have lived in Arizona for 9 years, 6 in Phoenix, and the last 3 here in Tucson. And so Ken is joining us today to talk about the Medicare for All movement. So please welcome Ken Kenegos.
Hello. Now yeah. Let's see here. Well, I guess we can get started because it'll take a few minutes. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me here today. As you know, my name is Ken Kenegos, and I'm a retired registered nurse and the coordinator of the Arizona Medicare for All Coalition. I'm here today with Yvette Flores, who's running the slides from National Nurses United and the Nurses Campaign to Win Medicare for All. We have a lot to cover, so let's jump in. Next slide. There we go. This campaign is organized by National Nurses United, or NNU, the largest union of professional organization of registered nurses in the United States. NNU represents more than 225,000 nurses across the country. I'm really glad to be here to speak about Medicare for All because as a nurse, I have seen how badly our healthcare system is failing people across the country. Nurses have been sounding the alarm for years. We see patients who wait too long to get care because they're afraid they won't be able to afford the bill. Families with insurance who still can't afford prescriptions, follow-up visits, scans, or specialist care. We see fear, confusion, and preventable suffering every single day. But we know something important. There is a solution to our broken healthcare system: Medicare for All. So what we're going to cover, I'm going to walk through 3 important topics. First, we'll look at what's happening in Arizona's healthcare and why so many families are struggling to obtain medical care. Second, we'll talk about what Medicare for All actually means and how it would fix many of the problems people experience today. And finally, we'll talk about what we're calling on Senator Ruben Gallego to do and how people here can help move this effort forward. So let's start by looking at the reality of healthcare in Arizona today. In Arizona, 12% of people under 65 are uninsured. This is still far too high, but the problem does not stop there. Arizona has the second highest rate of uninsured children in the nation, with 9% of children uninsured in 2024, according to Georgetown's Children's Health Coverage Report Card. Arizona sources also note that the highest uninsured rates are concentrated among low-income Hispanic and Native American children. Even among people who have insurance, many still cannot afford to use it. According to a 2025 Arizona poll by the Center on Healthcare, 36% of respondents avoided a doctor-recommended procedure, lab test, or evaluation in the past year because they couldn't afford it. And 29% say they or a family member skipped medication to save money in the past year. That means almost 4 out of 10 delay care due to cost, and about 3 out of 10 have skipped medication. And we know what that looks like. It looks like someone stretching out their medication. It looks like a patient postponing an appointment until a condition gets worse. It looks like a family trying to decide whether to buy groceries or fill a prescription. So when we talk about the healthcare crisis, we're not talking about an abstract policy debate. We're talking about the daily life of tens of thousands of people in Arizona. That means many people in the US may not be uninsured, but are still underinsured. So when someone asks, most people have insurance, why do we need Medicare for all? The answer is insurance is not enough, because an insurance card in your wallet doesn't help much if the deductible is too high, the network is too narrow, the claim is denied, or the copay keeps you from getting the care you need. Although Arizona does not track the reason why people file bankruptcy, medical debt studies have found that roughly 66.5% of US bankruptcy filers reported that medical issues, including high bills or lost income due to illness, contributed to their financial distress. Additionally, throughout 2025, Governor Katie Hobbs announced the erasure of over $642 million in medical debt for approximately 485,000 Arizonans. This effort, in partnership with the nonprofit Undo Medical Debt, targeted individuals with income below 4 times the federal poverty level, or whose medical debt made up 5% or more of their income. That means nearly 500,000 people in Arizona were carrying medical debt serious enough to have it wiped out, and many of those people had insurance. People have insurance and they're still going into debt. People have insurance and they're still delaying care. People have insurance and they're still one illness away from a financial crisis. That is why insurance alone is not enough, and that is exactly the problem Medicare for All is designed to solve. How many people here have seen the Emmy award-winning show, The Pit? No other. All right, great. Well, we're going to show a quick video clip, and the actors show a situation millions of Americans experience every day: the fear of getting medical care because of the cost. Let's take a minute to watch the clip. It's not working.
Give me one quick second here.
Everybody should just watch the show. It's very good.
Yes. Let me reshare this one more time here for y'all.
Gonna try it once more? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna unshare and reshare. 1 second here. Okay.
Orlando, where are you going?
Home. You take these out?
No. It takes 48 hours for you to get out of DKA. Your blood is still full of acid.
Look, I can't have thousands of dollars and $100 grand already owe.
I'm sorry, 100 grand?
It's medical debt. My wife doesn't even know. I'll never be able to pay it off as it is.
Where are your wife and daughter? Maybe we can all talk.
I told him to go back to work a couple hours ago.
The hospital is giving you a big discount. Mr. Diaz, I know it's not ideal, but can you stay for at least 12 hours? It will get you out of the danger zone.
No, I really can't. Every minute I stay is a meal, shoes, school supplies. Plus, I have a second job I have to get to by 4.
You need fluids.
I drink plenty of water.
And potassium and insulin. Okay, how about this? You stay and I'll get together everything you'll need at home. Also, a referral to Northside Christian Health Center. Come on. You don't work until 4. It'll keep you from passing out on the job again. Or worse.
Kenegos.
Great. Thank you. Please.
Well, that's yeah, but it's closer to reality than most TV. Such a powerful moment in the show. Thank you for everyone who raised their hands and shared that fact. People should never have to fear getting the care they need. That's why we fight for Medicare for all. Let's see here, we got to get to the next slide. Right? Arizona depends heavily on public health care. The Arizona Healthcare Cost Containment System, ACCESS, Arizona's Medicaid agency, covered almost 2 million people as of March 2026. And in 2024, 1 out of every 2 births in Arizona was covered by ACCESS. That tells us something important. Public health coverage is not some fringe idea in Arizona. It is already one of the pillars of how people get care. It covers children, low-income families, pregnant people, and new mothers. It covers millions of people across our state. But even with that, too many people are still left out, and too many more are technically insured but still financially exposed. So the problem is not whether public coverage has a role. The problem is that current patchwork system still leaves too many people behind. Right now, our health coverage system is fragmented. Based on the 2022 report published by Georgetown's University's McCourt School of Public Policy, about 46% of Arizonans get insurance through an employer. Others rely on Medicaid, Medicare, the individual market, and many still have no coverage at all. That means people move between plans. You change jobs and you lose coverage. You turn 65 and your coverage changes. You make a little too much money and you lose Medicaid. Every step of life comes with new rules, new paperwork, and new financial risks that many can't afford to take. Our system is confusing by design. And that fragmentation is part of why it fails so many people. Medicare for All replaces the chaos with one simple single-payer system that covers everyone. So what do we mean when we say Medicare for All? Before I walk through it, I want to mention that we emailed your group leader a handout that goes into more detail about the core principles of Medicare for All and how the policy works. In the meantime, here are some key things you need to know. Medicare for All means that every person in the United States is guaranteed health care as a human right. Everyone is covered. Everybody in, nobody out. No matter your job, no matter your income, no matter your age, no matter your citizenship status. Instead of a patchwork of hundreds of private insurance, state and federal plans, Medicare for All creates one single healthcare system that covers everyone. That program would cover all medically necessary care, including hospital care, doctor visits, prescription drugs, mental health, dental care, vision care, hearing care, reproductive care, long-term care, and more. And the care would be free at the point of service. No premiums, no deductibles, no copays, no surprise bills. If you need care, you get care. That is what Medicare for All means. When we pass Medicare for All, we will create a healthcare system that puts our healthcare dollars to care not profits. We create a system that sets money aside specifically to make sure that hospitals and clinics in rural and medically underserved areas have access to the best technology and have the resources to stay open and provide high quality care to the communities they serve, all at lower costs than our current system. So if you want a sense of how inefficient our current system is, 1 out of every $3 spent on healthcare is wasted on bureaucracy, profits, lobbying, political contributions, propaganda, and advertising, not care. That's how we can afford to guarantee care to everyone while expanding benefits of our current system is just that. Our current system is just that inefficient. Winning Medicare for all matters now more than ever because of the recent federal health care cuts passed in H.R. 1, also known as the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, last year. H.R. 1 includes some of the largest Medicaid and Medicare cuts in American history, nearly $1 trillion over 10 years, and will increase the number of people who are uninsured by 10 million by 2034. State officials estimate that Arizona could lose about $34 billion in federal Medicaid funds over the next 10 years because of the law. And because Arizona relies heavily on Medicaid through access, these cuts will have major impacts across our state. Experts warn that hundreds of thousands of Arizonans could lose coverage as the changes take effect. The law also introduces new barriers to care, including Medicaid work requirements for adults, more frequent eligibility checks, which also often cause eligible people to lose coverage due to paperwork errors, new cost sharing requirements for some low-income patients, and more. For Arizona families, that means fewer people covered, more strain on hospitals and clinics, and more patients forced to delay care until it becomes an emergency. And that brings us back to why this conversation matters. Because when a system can lose coverage for millions of people with one piece of legislation, it shows how fragile our current system really is. And it reminds us why so many nurses, patients, and families are calling for Medicare for all. This brings us to Senator Ruben Gallego. When he served in the House of Representatives, Ruben Gallego supported Medicare for all and was a co-sponsor of the legislation. During three separate legislative sessions, 2019, 2021, and 2023. Senator Gallego has already recognized that the current system leaves too many people behind. He already understands that the scale of the problem requires a bigger solution. However, Senator Gallego has yet to sign on as a co-sponsor of Medicare for All in the Senate. Senator Gallego was right before. Arizona still needs that leadership now more than ever, and more voters than ever are ready for a health care system that guarantees care for everyone. The 2024 poll by National Nurses United found 69% of registered voters support Medicare for all, including 88% of Democrats and 46% of Republicans. Since becoming a senator, Senator Gallego has focused on defending Medicaid, lowering drug costs, and protecting ACA coverage. Those are important fights, and they matter, but they are still partial answers to a larger problem. Protecting people inside a broken system is not the same thing as fixing the broken system. Arizona families deserve more than temporary fixes. We deserve a healthcare system that actually works, and that is why we're asking Senator Gallego to lead on Medicare for all again. We're asking Senator Gallego to meet with nurses, patients, families, and community members and recommit to supporting Medicare for all. And we're asking something of all of you too, because change does not happen only because the policy is good. It happens when people speak together clearly and persistently, and when a movement grows, leaders pay attention. It is clear that as a senator, there is pressure to take more moderate positions, to be cautious, to avoid political risk, to stay within what feels safe. That is exactly why this matters, because if elected leaders are making political calculations, they also need to hear loudly and clearly from the people across Arizona who want bold solutions, not just small steps. They need to hear from patients, families, workers, from all of us. So our ask to you is simple. Sign our petition, become a presenter, or help us set up more presentations like these to help us make it clear to Senator Gallego that Arizonans want Medicare for all. You can find our petition and other helpful links on our link tree. You can scan the QR code or copy the URL to get there. I want to finish up by thanking you all so much for having us here tonight to speak to all of you. Medicare for all is an issue that's near and dear to my heart, and I won't stop fighting for it until we win it. But it's going to take more than nurses. It's going to take teachers, firefighters, restaurant workers, small business owners, activists and organizers of all kinds, everybody that believes healthcare must be a human right. I hope you'll join us in this fight, and I know that together we will win. And we'd be glad to take some questions if you have a little time for that.
Yes, we do. Go ahead. Sorry, Shelley, go ahead. Yeah.
No, that's fine. There's one question in the chat so far. Everybody, please feel free to post questions there. Are you partnered with Physicians for National Health Plan, known as PNHP?
Yes.
Okay, that was easy.
That was an easy answer, yes.
Right? Okay. And then Marlene says, thank you. And how long has this campaign been going on?
Well, the campaign to get Medicare for all has been going on, many, many years, actually. You can go back to Truman, you can go back to Teddy Roosevelt, But this current campaign where we're talking with Senator Gallego, been going on for about the last 6 months, something like that, Yvette. Yeah, NNU identified certain congressional representatives and one senator as the most likely targets. And so we've been working here in Arizona with Ruben Gallego. So we've been working here on this for about 6 months, giving these presentations. We met with his healthcare staffer, had a long conversation with her, and we're hoping in the not too distant future to get a meeting with him. And we're calling on other people to join us.
Great. Are there other candidates or legislators here in Tucson who are supportive, or in Arizona in general, perhaps?
Well, Adelita Grijalva has signed on to the bill, and so has, oh my, what's her name? Um, she's in Gallegos' old district.
Is it Ansari?
I'm
No.
sorry, right.
Okay.
Ansari. Mhm.
She's a co-sponsor on the bill. We
Okay.
have a number of congressional primary challengers that are also Medicare for All supporters. Ty Newkirk in the 4th district. What's her first name? Lee. Her last name is Lee, who's a nurse also in the 5th district. And there may be some more I'm not sure of.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's see. Well, actually, somebody specifically asked about Senator Kelly. Do you have
Well,
thoughts on
we
his?
have tried to talk with Senator Kelly's office. He hasn't been real open to it to this point. But the reason we're concentrating on Senator Gallego, although we want to reach all of them, is because he was a co-sponsor for 3 sessions of Congress. And then he sort of backed away, made a political calculation. But that calculation needs to include the fact that there are many, many people demanding this. So if you use that QR code and go to that link tree and sign our petition there, and then you can also spread that petition around on social media, pass it around, and we're going to try to build that up enough that it will impress him.
Gotcha. And to be clear, this petition is to communicate with the Gallego office
Right.
a level of support. This is not a petition for something going on the ballot.
No, this is
Just want to make that clear. Yeah.
it's
Great.
not a ballot measure. It's a petition from constituents to Senator Gallego telling him that they want him to lead again on Medicare for all.
Great. Well, we got a lot of great questions in here. So, Diane asks, do we have enough providers given that appointments can take many months now? And I guess, what are your thoughts on how Medicare for all would affect the supply of providers?
Well, it's true that the medical system, especially since COVID, has been degraded in terms of the number of providers. And we will have to, I think there are provisions in the bill that help to get more people through medical school as well.
Okay.
And I can add on to that as well. My
Please.
name is Yvette Flores. I'm a community organizer with National Nurses United. I'm very honored to get to work on the Medicare for All campaign every single day. And Ken is a wonderful person that we work with. We've been working with for years now. But that question is specifically important because some of the delays that you're seeing within your area are artificial, meaning that your insurance company is giving you a very limited network to start from. You might not be eligible to go to all the providers that actually do, help your area. And the other great thing about this system is that you could incentivize. There is so much money that you can then use to incentivize for more nurses, more doctors to participate in rural areas. I'm from a rural area. I was born in a rural area. And, something that we're constantly worried about is what's going to happen when we have a system like this. But we actually have the funds to allocate to incentivizing more doctors to practice in rural areas. That is just how inefficient the system is. Right now, $3 out of every $5 you spend is going to profits, to advertisement, to the bureaucracy that exists in the system. Now think if we had that 60% of dollars that you're already spending on healthcare, but we could do so much more with it, right? And so that's something I thought I would share. That's a very common question we get, especially from folks in rural areas.
I appreciate that. That's actually connects to one of the questions, which is what's been most effective in changing minds, especially in those who are opposed to this, especially when they bring up that concern about long waiting times. So I think you answered that. Well, if you want to add anything else, but that sounds like a pretty effective argument that in fact there are funds. Once you go to a single payer system, there are more funds for care. Therefore, there's more care.
Right.
Great. Let's see. Joanna Mendoza, has she come out with a position on this?
Not yet, but
Okay.
we're hoping to talk to her. I'm going to a meeting with her in the next few weeks and hope to bend her ear on it a bit.
Great.
And what we're doing, what National Nurses United has another campaign they've been doing for a few years now, which is called Patients Over Profits. Because the reason that we don't have a single payer not-for-profit healthcare system in this country is because we have these corporations that are making billions of dollars off of the current system. And we're asking all candidates that are running for office or running for re-election to pledge not to take money from the corporate healthcare system. We need to make their money toxic.
Gotcha. One sort of nomenclature question. Is Medicare for all the same as universal healthcare? And I'll add to that, is that the same as single payer healthcare?
The easy answer is yes.
Okay.
Universal healthcare is a more broad term. Medicare for all really refers to the legislation that has been in Congress for the last 3 or 4 sessions.
Got it.
The easiest way to think about it would be universal healthcare is something you can support, and a single payer healthcare system is a way of achieving universal healthcare. So specifically, the Medicare for All bill outlines a single payer healthcare system.
Roger. Got it. Thank you. Are you in contact with Governor Hobbs regarding her position? I lost the question. Her possible agreement with the legislative bargaining leadership to have full conformity with the federal changes vis-a-vis the big, beautiful bill at the state level.
No, I can't
Sorry,
say.
I couldn't. Yeah, go ahead.
We haven't been in touch with her office. I haven't. I don't know. Yvette, have you been in touch with the governor?
No, we have not. This particular campaign is very unique. So our Medicare for All campaign is a national campaign. So we work with people from all over the country in every single state. We have leaders in every single state. But this particular campaign is special, the one that we're running in Arizona. We actually are focusing on speaking to brand new elected congressional representatives in other parts of the country. But specifically in Arizona, we're focusing on reaching out to Senator Ruben Gallego because he's been such a strong supporter of the bill. It is undeniable that he supported and he led on this bill when he was in Congress. And ever since he got elected to the U.S. Senate, he has not taken a position on the bill. And in the legislative visit that we had with him earlier this year, we got a response that he was focusing on the ACA cuts. But we want to make it clear that this is not something that has to wait until after we protect the ACA subsidies. This is a fight that we can take on while also protecting people in the short term. And so I think that if you're feeling drawn to reaching out to any other local electeds, please do so and join this campaign because it is probably one of the most achievable and winnable campaigns that we have all over the country, right? Ruben Gallego and his support could really move things, especially as we go into this next presidential elections. We've heard that there's some considerations being made by certain elected officials in Arizona. And if his support were to come out, it could make Medicare for All a national issue once again, as many of you might remember, 2020, the last presidential campaign. That is our goal, to keep this at the forefront, especially especially in response to the poll that we did last year, which showed that there is overwhelming support. 88% of Democrats support Medicare for All. And in addition to that, you have a total of 69% of people, regardless of political affiliation, that support this issue. But yeah, that just to give you a little bit more details on, why it is that we're so focused on Senator Ruben Gallego.
Gotcha. Thank you. How are we doing on time, Tina?
I think we have time for one more question. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you might have touched on this before, but American doctors have left to immigrate to Canada to practice in the single payer system there. How can we incentivize them to stay here? Money?
The obvious answer is
Uh-huh.
with a single payer system here.
There you go.
Right. Yeah.
And then I have one quick follow-up. So just so I understand, maybe everybody else already knows this, but where exactly is the bill? It is still waiting to be introduced in committee, or where is the bill? And is it in the House, in the Senate? Do we have two versions going?
There are two versions, one in the House, one in the Senate.
Okay.
The version in the House is sponsored by primary co-sponsor is Pramila Jayapal and Debbie Dingell.
Okay.
And that has, I think, 114 co-sponsors, so it's a majority of the Democrats. And in the Senate, the bill is by Senator Bernie Sanders,
Right.
and now has 17 co-sponsors. It's growing.
Okay.
And, that as our system right now, we can see from the big, beautiful, bad bill, it's starting to implode. Insurance companies are backing out of many markets. People's rates for insurance have gone through the roof, and more people are going to become uninsured, in addition to more and more people becoming underinsured. So I think, that's really moving people forward to say, yes, we've got to do something other than just tinkering around the edges.
All right. Thanks everybody for posting questions. If I missed any, let me know, but I think we're good.
I do. So Margaret, do you want to take over?
Yes, thank you, Tina. And thank you so much, Ken and Yvette, for presenting to us and to our group. So I've been recording this, and it's going to go up on our YouTube channel. And we're so happy that you were able to join us today and give us such a wonderful presentation. And oh my gosh, best of luck to all of you. And thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.